Hi, hello, welcome to the Zelda Creators Modcast. I'm your host, you, fresh out of Sora's domain, and today I'm joined by the roaming fairy Tina, Joy from Vito Village, Flute from the Hot Deserts, and my brethren, Pixel. Everybody, why don't you introduce yourselves, starting with Tina?
I'm Tina. I don't really do much around here other than just be cheerful and make everybody happy, but apparently everybody likes that pretty much.
Hey, I'm Joey J, and I'm another one of the hosts from the Zelda Creators Modcast. So a senior mod, I do event coordinating here, all that kind of stuff. I also have got my own Breath of the Wild 2 comic that I'm currently working on called Bond of Legends. It's a lot of fun, interactive. It's kind of the main thing I got going on right now. Other than that, I like Sonic, Animal Crossing, other series along those lines. And when I'm not working on this stuff, I'm at one of my jobs or hanging out with my pets, and that's about it.
Hi, I'm Pixel Toad. I'm one of the managers on Zelda Creators. I'm a marching band kid by day and a gamer by night. I have been playing Zelda for about 4 or 5 years now, and I've become totally invested in the series, and so much that I've written a whole concert band piece on it.
Hey everybody, I'm Flute, also known as Flutefemme on Instagram and Twitter. One of the managers here at Zelda Creators, and I'm actually relatively new to the Zelda world. It's actually been, this month is my year anniversary for starting Zelda. My husband bought me the game and fell in love with the story, found a lot of cool people and artists, and made my way over to Zelda Creators when it kind of first started. The rest is history. When I'm not drawing or writing fan fiction, I'm a principal, middle school principal, and a mom of 3. So I keep myself busy and out of trouble most of the time.
Cool, then I'm going to close this little roundup. I'm you, and I will be your main host. I'm also a fellow mod of Zelda Creators, of course. And besides that, I am a multimedia artist. I work with digital art, but personally my favorite art definitely traditional art, especially watercolor and gouache. Besides that, I also do like crafting and especially cross-stitching sometimes. And I also keep fish. I currently have a new fish. His name is Oki. He's a better. My favorite Zelda game is Twilight Princess, and outside of Zelda, I'm also a really big fan of 3D platformers like the silly goofy ones. You know, Crash, Spyro, Sonic, Rayman, all of that stuff. And other Nintendo IPs, I'm really invested in Splatoon and Pokemon. And we are going to explain what the Zelda Creators Modcast is. The Modcast is a podcast that includes the mod team of the Zelda Creators. And we thought having a podcast talking about Zelda and what it entails to be a Zelda creator would be a pretty fun addition to our server. And so we are sitting here and we will talk about Zelda related topics, especially focusing on creation and fan works. And also we will have interviews with special creators. Today we have Mod Flute and other featured creators, big names of our server or in the Zelda fandom in general. We'll see who we'll get. And this ordeal is supposed to be monthly to bi-monthly, with an ever-changing cast of Zelda Creator moderators. Today we're going to start with the interview of Flute. Next we're talking about our first Zelda experiences. And lastly, on topic, the Eshop is closing for 3DS and Wii U. What Zelda games should you get before it's closing? And with that, I am going to lead into the interview for Flute.
Perfect. Actually, would you want to do a very short intro of like the kind of things you're doing first before we dive into the question?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Well, like what I said before, I'm my day job is a middle school principal, so I'm crazy by nature anyway. In order to do that, but just recently came into Zelda. I'm only in it a year actually, but I taught music and art before I was a principal, and always loved drawing, but had set it aside for a really long time. And after playing Zelda and getting connected with some amazing artists, was inspired to dust off all of my stuff after 10 years of setting it aside. And I started drawing. My primary medium is colored pencil. I do dabble in watercolor pencil occasionally. I'd like to, branch out to other painting mediums too. But for now, colored pencils work for me and I really enjoy it. I'm kind of working on mastering those. I also like to write. I've loved to write since I was a little girl. And so, but I've never had the time or made the time to write. So I started a fan fiction late last year called The Fallback Plan, and it's a modern Zelda AU that kind of tracks the Zelda cast from Breath of the Wild. And I include some in several other games as well through kind of like a workplace drama. Rom-com, I guess. So it's not finished yet, but so we're, I think, chapter 36 or something like that. And then I just started a couple of weeks ago, post Breath of the Wild, collection of short stories called The Z-Link Chronicles. And I'm collabing with a couple of mom Zelda fans and artists for that. So those are the current things that I'm working on.
Awesome.
Beautiful. Would you like to answer some questions then?
Yeah, lay it on me.
All right, well, this one relates to your writing The Fallback Plan. What was your inspiration for your original character, Toma?
So when I wrote, and these are just a spoiler alert if you haven't read the fic, but I needed an angst reason, I guess, maybe for a potential love triangle, I guess you could say, between Link, Zelda, and a third party. And so really his inspiration was I wanted to have a surprise in the middle of the fic that he was, I'm not going to say who he's related to, but yeah, just kind of he comes in, sweeps in, super handsome, kind of more boisterous and charming, and has a lot more, I don't know, charisma than Link. And so he kind of comes on a little bit strong when he first gets introduced, but yeah, I mean, his inspiration was really just to create drama. So, and I was trying to think, as far as his persona was basically describing like someone that I would consider super handsome. So like tall, dark, and handsome is my thing. So there you go.
I think we all do that in our writing or our art sometimes.
Yes.
Mindless self-indulgence.
Indeed.
All right, and do you plan to make more original Zelda characters in the future?
Oh yes, definitely.
I cannot imagine you saying no to that question.
More tall, dark, and handsome ones, or
Might be. Maybe Toma has a secret brother that no one ever knew about.
Ooh.
I'm ready.
Okay, perfect. And the fallback plan you mentioned is a modern Zelda AU. As we know, Zelda series takes place in more of like most of the Zelda games, I think all of them, take place in a more medieval fantasy kind of deal. But you specifically went for a modern Zelda AU. And I'm wondering what drew you towards creating a modern take on a series like this.
I think it's kind of natural, like most writers are like, so if the Zelda characters were like in our times, like how would they act? How would they behave, and who would they be? And I've always wanted to write a rom-com in the school setting, workplace, because that's they say write what you know. And I've been in education for over 20 years. And so I was like, I could write about stuff and make some funny things happen. Just include, Zelda characters, and trying to think the most fun thing about setting up the story was trying to decide, okay, so if we were in a school, who would the characters, which roles would they play in a school? And so we were thinking, for Urbosa, she's the school counselor. Deku, the Deku tree or whatever. Deku is the principal of the middle and high school, and Link is part of the Terrytown PD, but he's also the school security officer. So it was kind of fun to be able to place them in roles that I'm familiar with in education, and just kind of giggle about it and say, oh, we could put these people in some funny situations. So yeah.
Well, I think we're all wondering, where is the guy with the master torch in all this?
The guy with the master torch?
Maybe you haven't gotten there in Breath of the Wild yet.
There's a guy you can find who's convinced that he is the legendary hero, but instead of the master sword, he has the master torch.
Did I miss that quest? Was that at one of the stables? Was he in one of the stables?
Yeah, he's at a stable.
Okay, I think I know it.
The stable people are whack. I'm just
Stable people are crazy.
I love that I would live at one of the stables. Come on.
Oh, no, I love that. I love that about them. That's a compliment.
Yeah, I mean, if you're living in a stable in a post-apocalyptic world, I mean, how are you going to stay sane? I wouldn't.
Oh my god, totally. You guys know the guy who is like crazy about the blood moon?
Yes.
That is one of the creepiest things I've seen in Zelda.
Always a stable
That guy
people.
actually creeped me out.
Yeah.
Look, it sounds like
Yeah.
you have to add some stable people to one of your stories.
Yeah.
Definitely. I do.
Oh,
I
yeah.
do.
You have to add the
you know,
rushroom guy though.
Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
the rushroom grind. Yes. Like that could be a little bit. Controversial in a school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
Depending on how you portray them. Yeah.
Oh no.
He gets dragged out of the school in handcuffs because of his restroom stash in the lockers.
I don't know, it could be funny.
Yeah, obscure characters are super fun. I think like in Breath of the Wild, they have some really fantastic obscure characters where I'm like, man, they should have run with this. Like I hope we see more of them in Breath of
Right?
the Wild too. Where I was like, I can really build a character and do something super funny with this. Yeah, definitely.
Magda has to come back. Please, I love
Oh
her.
no, please.
Magda's in my fic.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. Well, in
Oh
a Zelda
my-
AU fic, yeah.
Well, like canon.
So this next question for you.
She's Ganon's secretary.
So this next question for you
Okay, go ahead.
is about your Zealand Chronicles fanfic. What was your goal with this little mini series?
So with the Zealand Chronicles, to be honest, you know, I struggle with long drawn out plot planning. I like the short one shot kind of things, and so I wanted to do something post Breath of the Wild to kind of address. Well, I've been married for 13 years, and so there's a lot of fanfics out there that are fantastic that address, you know, Link and Zelda falling in love and getting married, but what about like the real things that people don't talk about? You know, like awkward situations or different frustrations that they would naturally encounter after Ganon, and of course, you know, through the trauma that they both experienced together, trying to find, okay, how do we be normal now? Like, how are we normal people? And we've got to do these things together, and we're not fighting for Hyrule, and we're not killing monsters all the time, and how do we find our new normal? And so I wanted to kind of address that in short story format. So I also wanted to, you know, as the player, you know, we play Link throughout the entire game. Zelda's, you know, trapped in Hyrule Castle, doesn't get to really do anything except make sure that Ganon doesn't escape. And so when they're finally out and about, Link kind of showing her all of the different things and kind of Zelda experiencing it through the player's eyes. So the first few chapters, you know, there's a lot of things that I would think of, like as I'm playing the game, like this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Like I think there's one like where they meet a Korok and she's, you know, she's talking to Link and she's like, well, how come you haven't saved them all for someone, a hero like you? Like, and he's like, there's 900 of them. Did you want me to save you or get all the Koroks first? So some of the things that the player sometimes thinks about being frustrating or funny in the game, kind of working that in there and like having Zelda experience it with Link and giving Link kind of a reason to look at it, not from a stressful point of view, like I'm trying to save everybody and I have to do it fast, but like, oh yeah, I really like this about Hyrule and...
Sweet. I think you mentioned before that you're not the only one working on this project. So who else is working
Yes.
with you on this?
So, I, through a lot of, you know, connections with different Zelda fan Instagram sites and Discord groups, I met two other moms who are kind of in the same walk of life as me and have multiple kids, and you know, so we became fast friends pretty quickly. And one, her name's Abby, she's Coolmomartvibes on Instagram. She is an amazing watercolor artist, and she just does it for fun. So as a mom, you need to find that me time, and so that's kind of what we've done. And then the other artist is Justrosieart on Instagram. Her name's Rose, and she's a mom of 5. She draws and does a bit of, I think she does digital. Hers is digital art. And so we're just like, hey, you know, we need to keep each other accountable and make sure that we're relaxing and doing things for us and having fun. How about we do this thing? I was like, I've been wanting to do this fanfic, but I know I can't do the fanfic and completely illustrate the whole story. And I would love this to be an illustrated story. And they're like, yeah, that'd be great. And so they're illustrating, they're helping design the cover for the fan fiction, and they're picking like different scenes that really speak to them in the story and illustrating them. And so I'm inserting them, and then we just promote them on our social media. So it's been really fun.
Cool. The next question would have been what they contribute, but I think you've already answered that with
Yes.
like the illustration part. So yeah, we can go on to the next question.
All right, so general questions. Do you find it difficult to write about Link, just Link as a character who's not known for talking or really having extended scenes with other people that shows about what he's thinking or whatnot? Did you have a lot of trouble writing that?
You know, I wouldn't say I had a lot of trouble. The challenging part is making Link authentic. I think one of the things that Nintendo really champions is that everybody has their own view of who Link is and how he interacts, because that's their whole intention is you are Link. And so so a lot of the things, you know, as far as his personality quirks, I've watched all the cutscenes from almost all of the Zelda games to just kind of get an idea of who he is, you know, throughout time and space, I guess, because the Zelda timeline is very interesting. But specifically for Breath of the Wild, he's just the silent, quiet supporter. Right? So trying to like assign, I don't know, Myers-Briggs to him, like what kind of personality would he be and how would he interact? But also thinking, because I'm married to a silent type who's, you know, when he's in public. And so I'm like, how would my husband react to this, you know? And so that's how that's helped me write him. Also, he's more comfortable with Zelda. So, and he's obviously like from the games, he has spoken to her. I mean, they did speak, it's just implied in the game. And then, of course, you've got the game dialogue, which is hilarious. So that kind of gives some insight into his characteristics, and that he is. I like to think that he's a bit mischievous, because he is 18. What teenage boy is not mischievous, right? So in some sort, way or fashion, he would be doing the crazy stuff he does in the game if he wasn't bold in some way. So I kind of use all of those different things and piece it together to give him his personality.
I love that. I feel like
that's a really good answer.
Yeah. Which also kind of made me, this isn't in our questions, but I'm just kind of curious now. Just a real quick question.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
What are your other, like, Z-Link, what other relationships, what ships, that's the word I'm looking for. What other ships from the Zelda series would be, like, your other favorites? I'm assuming Z-Link is your favorite. You have 2 stories written about them.
Z-Link is by far my favorite. I've always, you know, since I started playing, I was like, man, Urbosa and Daruk should get together. Like, yes. they're both and actually they're a ship in my modern AU. And I'm just like, but I don't see much of that. So that's kind of, I don't know how many people write that. Maybe I just haven't read enough fan fiction to see that. I would love to see Mipha, I know they're both dead, but I'd love to see Mipha and Rivali together. Like, I think Mipha and Rivali have a good dynamic. And of course, the one memory scene where Rivali looks over at Mipha while she's being all embarrassed and weird, and he kind of gives her a little grin. I don't know if anybody ever noticed that in the clip, but it's really cute. And I was like, oh my gosh, he thinks she's cute. So.
Power couples. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree with all of those, by the way. I'm not just trying to, like, gain your favor. I'm 100% on board with those as well, so.
You must agree with me in all things, Joey.
Perfect. So yeah, and speaking of which, you made a lot of art to go along with not only your work, but with other people's work and just your love for the franchise in general. And on your Instagram, at least that's the one I'm following. I don't know if you have a Twitter, do you?
I do. It's a Flutefemme instead of Flutefemme art. So my Instagram has art at the end of Flutefemme. But yes, I do. And I post on both.
Yeah. And it's amazing artwork, but what's interesting is that I think all of your artwork has been traditional.
Yes.
And I was wondering, like, what do you love about making traditional art? Would you have any plans to try any other art mediums in the future? If so, why or why not?
So I've always done traditional art. It's because it's what I'm most familiar with. So I like the feel of the pencil in my hand. I enjoy sketching and erasing, and I like the vibrant colors that colored pencil just give. I like working on a physical canvas. That's few of the reasons why I enjoy traditional art. I've wanted to dabble in digital art. I just don't have a device. Eventually, it's on my wish list, is to get my own laptop, tablet, and be able to start doing some digital stuff. I love painting. That's something that took classes for in college, for art classes, and I do enjoy that. Yeah, that's kind of...
Those are all valid.
Yeah.
I know for me, it can be tough to juggle my schoolwork and my love for Zelda and video games. How do you manage to juggle all this work with the stories and the art and the creations and everything with your day job?
That is an excellent question. Being a principal is tough. I also, with being a mom of 3 and a wife, and moms in general, and any moms that are listening will understand this, is like you always put yourself last because you put everybody else first, because that's just the way life works. I have an 8 to 5 job. I work from home at a virtual school. So I'm able to shut my computer at 5 o'clock and say, okay. But it took me years to do that. Like I'm a natural workaholic. And so at the end, and that was what brought me to Zelda. Actually, my husband bought me the game to force me to relax because I wasn't doing it. And I was burning out, and I was burning out my family, and it was tough. It was really, really hard. 2020 was a tough year. I finally said, okay, there has to be a change. I'm either going to have to quit my job or I'm going to have to change what I do. And so I began shutting my computer at 5 o'clock, hopping on the Switch and playing Zelda to force myself to change the way I thought and the way I relaxed. And it changed my life. I was able to tell the difference between working from home and being home. And so when I started falling in love with the story, I started looking up artists, and I found several. Like Nebulace was able to get connected with her stuff, and she was originally the one that inspired me to get back to drawing. And now she's a good friend of mine. I started drawing, and I picked out the drawing, and my husband was like, "Erin, this is amazing." That's my real name, and it's okay if you know it. And he took me to Hobby Lobby, our local art store in the Midwest, and he bought $200 worth of art stuff because he was so excited that I had finally started making time for myself. And that's when it all began. And he understands it in the evening. Sometimes he'll actually say, Erin, you're getting a little salty. Please go draw. And my kids understand, and they've been excited to see me do things, and they've gotten their own little sketchbooks, and they like to draw little Zelda things. Occasionally I'll post stuff on Instagram of stuff that they draw. But it's literally changed my life for the better. And it's one of the reasons why I love Zelda. I love the community. I love the people. I've made so many wonderful friends like you all. And it's made me learn to appreciate the things that keep me creative. And as a result of that, and making time for myself and forcing myself to relax and do things, I'm a better principal. I'm better at work. I'm nicer to my family, so it all works out in the end. So it's just a matter of, if you're looking to do something like that, it's just buckling down and saying, okay, I'm going to make a change. And there you go. And now I'm here.
Amazing.
Oh,
I love that.
Amazing interview.
You better go and
Wow.
hug your husband when we're all done with this. Like,
Yeah.
like one for
He's
each of
pretty
us.
awesome.
Shout out
he's
to
pretty awesome.
Flute's husband.
Shout out to Ted.
Shout out to Ted.
Thank you so much for your interview. It was so nice. So nice. But I want to ask you, would you like to shout out your socials at the end, real quick, for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So on Instagram, I'm Flutefemme Art. And then my Twitter is just Flutefemme. So Flute, Flute, and then Femme, Femme. It's kind of funny. I came up with that moniker. It was my email address in high school because I thought I was super cool because I was taking French classes. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to put French in here. It's going to be Flute Girl. So there you go. Flutefemme.
Perfect.
And then of course my personal Instagram account, I couldn't just do I couldn't switch it over, so I had to add art. So that's why my Instagram is different.
Well, you have a lot of art on there.
Now we have our next topic. We will talk about our first Zelda experiences to celebrate our first ever Zelda podcast. Who wants to start?
Ooh,
wants
I'm
to go
actually
first?
pretty ready to start.
Go, Tina,
for
do
it.
it.
So this
Yeah.
one's pretty good. Okay. When I was young, my first game I ever played, it wasn't Zelda, it was actually Doom on PC. You know, I was sitting in my dad's lap and trying not to be terrified of this, pixel demons,
It's a
but
bit different from Zelda,
No.
just a little bit.
Pixel demons.
Yeah.
after that my dad got a Game Boy and he got Link's Awakening and I think he got, a couple other games like Tetris and whatever. Not long after that, my dad ended up buying me my own Game Boy Color Magenta so I would get off of his Game Boy because he never got to play it because I was always playing it.
Dad needs
So-
some time.
Yeah. So I started off with Pokemon. I can't remember if it was blue or yellow. I remember I had both of them, but I don't remember which one I had first. So I had Pokemon and Link's Awakening. And while I wasn't very good at Link's Awakening, I was really persistent, so I eventually got through it. So most of the time, when I was playing either Pokemon or Link's Awakening, I was usually playing Link's Awakening because I definitely liked it a lot more. When I was young, my dad was a semi-truck driver, so I spent a lot of time in semi-trucks for long rides. And, usually, you don't always have radio. And, most of the time you're looking at a dead grass out a window, so it's pretty boring. So, of course, I was all about my Game Boy Color. And sorry, I'm just happy to think about it. Good memories.
That's so sweet.
So I think the first Zelda game I ever beat was definitely Link's Awakening. Let's be real, that one's very weird and it blew my mind.
It is pretty whack.
Yeah, it was like beautiful and wacky and just really enjoyable. And of course, how can you not love Marin? She's the best.
Oh, I love his singing.
Marin
It's
is
so
pretty
cute.
good.
But yeah, that was my first Zelda game was Link's Awakening, and I absolutely loved it.
Cool.
I guess I can go next. My first Nintendo console was a Wii U. I know, one of the worst selling consoles, my first. But I got it when I was like 7 or 8. My first Zelda game was Legend of Zelda Battle Quest on Nintendo Land, which doesn't count at all. My first real Zelda game was, I didn't play it until a few, like 3 or 4 years later, when my best friend who's really into Zelda, suggested that I play Zelda, and she told me to get the Wind Waker HD, and so that was my first Zelda game, and I played it, and I immediately fell in love with the cartoony art style, because I was in like, 6th grade. Yeah, I just loved how it played, and then I got Breath of the Wild, I think it was just about a year later, and my god, that game changed my world. That totally changed my view of what a game could be. That's really what launched me, and now I have like 14 Zelda games. I've got the books, I got Creating a Champion, I have this big poster, and I've become a Zelda, basically kind of like a Zelda superfan.
I have all the books too, Pixel.
Yeah, they're great.
Have you played through all of those? All 14?
No, I've not. I've beaten. The only ones I haven't beaten that I have, because I just got new ones, but the ones that I've had for a while, I haven't beaten the original. I haven't beaten Zelda 2. I've not beaten Link's Awakening Remaster yet. I haven't beat Hero Mode Skyward Sword, but
You'll get there.
Yeah.
I believe in you.
yeah.
Awesome. I can go next if I don't know
Yeah,
if
go
anyone
ahead.
else was claiming. All right, cool. So my first Zelda game, I can't remember, but I know it had to be either whatever the Four Sword game that was for the GameCube. I think it was Four Sword Adventure.
Yeah, because
Adventures?
Four Swords came out with Link to the Past.
Yeah, so it was either that one or Ocarina of Time. Either way, I played them both around the same time, but I actually didn't own either of these. I could only play them when I was at my daycare place at the time. They basically had a playroom that had a wall, like a long table that had a wall of like really cruddy TVs, like mini TVs that each had a GameCube in them. And then they had like a locker that had a handful of GameCube games. But the thing was like you couldn't enter the playroom until you showed someone who worked there that you finished your homework. And I was not a very fast homework person. So it was very rare for me to actually get in there on time and get the game that I wanted to play. And even then, GameCubes, they had the memory cards at the time. And so if I wanted to ever save my progress, I'd have to have a memory card. But I was also borrowing those from the daycare. Even if I did get the right game, sometimes all the memory cards would be gone by then, or someone would have taken the memory card that I had a saved file on. So basically, almost every single time I booted up the game after I finished my homework, I'd have to start from scratch. So I would never really make it that far. And even if I did have the memory card, the game, all that jazz, I just wasn't very good at Zelda games. I wasn't like good at puzzles and stuff, so I'd like immediately get pretty frustrated with them. And I know they're like meant for kids, but I just couldn't. My brain couldn't function for puzzle games. Plus I was just more into like Sonic Adventure 2 and stuff like that at the time, so I'd usually grab those first. And another fun little thing at that time was we would play like Super Smash Bros. Melee. It was all GameCube games. Everything was GameCube games. And they had like Link and they had young Link. And since I only had very limited experience with the Zelda games, I just assumed that they had older Link and younger Link because young Link was like Link's son or something. I wasn't very sure. I had no knowledge of, because I never made it that far in Ocarina of Time. So obviously I need to go back and actually play the game. I know now that it's not his son, you know, I know what happens in those games. Just a lot of misinformation at the time. So that's pretty much my first experience. And I need to go back and re-experience some of those games and play them correctly and finish them.
I think we've all had silly ideas about Link having a kid. Like, I definitely thought Link had a kid.
It's hard to figure all that out. You know, as much as I love Zelda, the lore is all over the place, so it's hard for my little child brain to understand everything.
And I was like, okay, this is canon.
Yeah.
And we all have kind of our own headcanon too, so that's always, you know, and the way people interpret it. That's one of the reasons I really like how Nintendo approaches it, because it allows, and I think that's part of why they're so successful, is that they make it the player's own.
The only two games that I played initially were my first two games were Wind Waker and Breath of the Wild. So when, spoiler for the end credit for the true ending of Breath of the Wild, but when at the end after you get all the memories, Zelda says Varuda's been malfunctioning. I'm like, oh. So this is how Hyrule gets flooded. Wind Waker comes after Breath of the Wild. Whoa!
So
oh my god, I never even thought about that.
I never thought of that.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah. That's so cool. Obviously, Breath of the Wild was my first, because I got it for Christmas 2021, or Christmas 2020. And I didn't actually start playing it until late January of 2021, and just had so much fun with it. Ted, my husband, was like, oh my gosh, I've created a monster. I'm like, you have. Good luck with this. I loved how immersive the whole world is, and just the freedom that you have as you play it. So my kids started watching me play, and it became our movie nights on Friday nights and Saturday nights occasionally whenever I would play, to the point now where I'm going through it again on master mode, and they do not want me to play it unless they're sitting there watching. And so I did Hyrule Warriors. I didn't quite finish that because I was really in it only for the cutscenes and the story. So I just watched
the original. Or Age of Calamity?
I just watched the cutscenes. Age of Calamity.
Okay.
Yeah, I know there are two, aren't there?
Yeah.
And so I just watched the cutscenes on YouTube, and then I was satisfied, and I was like, I didn't like the gameplay quite as much as I did Breath of the Wild, and so I'm playing through Skyward Sword now, and it's going really slow because the kids will not let me play. Like we will have a mutiny in my house if I play Skyward Sword without them watching, because they are in love with the story too, and it's created a really fun family time for us to connect over Zelda. So that's kind of my, and I want to play Twilight Princess, but we don't own a Wii, so I'm waiting for the day that maybe it comes to Switch. I don't know. Please, Nintendo. Yeah, but I want to try Majora's Mask and all the stuff that's available on the Switch now.
Perfect. Yeah, love to do that too.
You know, basically, I've been playing video games since I was a little kid. Like, there was no time in my life where I didn't have video games, because my parents were really pretty big on video games, and I basically got born into a household with the entire PS1 library. The point is PS1. So I grew up on Crash Bandicoot mostly, and I had a DS later on in life and a Wii. But I was mostly playing, stupid little girl stuff. And Animal Crossing and Nintendogs, and that was my jam, and everything to do with Animal care.
Crossing is very manly.
Animal Crossing is very intense.
It's the most high-octane gameplay you'll see.
It's
Especially
very
the old one.
stressful.
Doom, child's play.
Have you ever shaken a tree and a bee's nest falls out? Like, I have never breathed in my life. No, really, Reset DM made me really upset. So basically, I have always had video games in my life. But like the big Nintendo IPs I didn't have. Like, I have played Mario until like I was 13. I haven't played, Zelda or Pokemon. I haven't even played Pokemon until I was like 13. X was my first game. Yeah, when I was 13, I was this point where suddenly I got access to the internet, and I got super interested in all these games that there were, I suddenly could research what was out there, and I was really big on watching YouTube reviews. And I remember this. There was this one YouTube reviewer. He was German, and I sadly do not remember his channel name, and I'm pretty sure it's not active anymore. And he was pretty salty about most games. It was this Angry Gamer Guy era. I watched this big review on Twilight Princess, and he was bashing it. He was like, the wolf is stupid and the world is empty and it's so dark and there's no reason for it to be dark. And I was like, wow, I need that game. I want to play it.
I'm gonna prove you wrong.
Watching that game for 30 minutes, and I was like, yes, this is what I want. This game is what I want. So for Christmas that year, I asked for Twilight Princess. I actually got I could choose between two games like Smash Bros. Brawl and Twilight Princess for my birthday, and I choose Brawl. Yeah, so I waited even longer to play Zelda. When I first played Twilight Princess, it was an experience. Up to this point, I only knew platformers and Animal Crossing. It was so beautiful to me the first time I was there in Autumn Village. A thing that I remember so vividly, sitting in front of my TV and just looking at Autumn Village. Ah, so pretty. Yeah, I played Twilight Princess pretty intensively, for a month at this point. Months long. And I'm pretty sure I finished it at this point. I finished it when I first played it. And then I moved on to all the other Zelda games. I got a Wii U, and I played Wind Waker, the Wind Waker HD, and I had my 3DS, where I played then Ocarina of Time 3D and Majora's Mask 3D and everything. I have played most Zelda games to this point. The only ones I didn't play, Zelda 1, Zelda 2, and Links to the Past, and the adventure games, Oracles of Ages, Minish Cap. I've played most. Yeah.
So basically all the 3D Zeldas.
All of the 3D Zeldas for sure, but some of the smaller ones I haven't played. And I've played both Hyrule Warriors games, and I'm actually a person that really enjoyed both Hyrule Warriors games, especially Age of Calamity. Boah. I am that girl that plays Age of Calamity with one character and one character only.
Which is?
Sidon.
Of course, let's go! Best character!
Is that even a question, Pixel?
Apparently it is. I see Yunobo mains, I see Teba mains, I see Riju mains.
Really, Riju mains?
Rivali and Teba are so annoying to play in
I love Teba.
Age of
He's a
Calamity.
really good character.
If
I switch,
I love the characters. It's just the gameplay is
I
tough.
switch to Teba. Maybe Impa, but that's it.
Yeah,
And then
Teba and
I
Sidon are my main ones. I actually do play as Riju sometimes because she's hilarious for big groups of enemies, and then you just rampage through them.
Yeah.
It's not
I like Link and
super
Mipha.
effective, but it's hilarious.
Yeah, I
Mipha.
main Link, Mipha, and Sidon.
People that main Link are so boring. I'm sorry.
They're all
Link-
good for different things and different players.
Yeah.
Sidon's the best for just the side dialogue as he fights. It just he cracks me up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Impa is the best for just straight damage.
Yeah.
If you need to do a lot of damage fast, just use your
Mhm.
We definitely got to make a
tier list.
conversation about this for another episode and go really deep into all the characters and everything.
Totally.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
I've had to
Yeah.
brush up on my gameplay then.
Yeah, it's been a
Man.
minute. Maybe I should play before I make a suggestion like that.
Yeah.
Well, I've been playing all this time since the game came out.
Although I could totally have a Twitch and just have people listen to my kids trolling me while I try to play video games.
That would be the best.
I'd watch.
It's I gotta figure out how to do that because it's freaking hilarious.
Yeah, I need a capture card so badly.
Same. I wanna get one until like Breath of the Wild 2 releases.
Yeah.
It could be a long time, you know. We don't know.
It's gonna be in November.
Yeah, apparently November.
I think it's gonna be a holiday release. Personally,
Yeah.
just makes the most sense. Also, you know, I talked to my husband about it, and he's like, it just makes sense because like, why would they release Breath of the Wild 2 and not have a new console? I
They
wonder
have
if
to at this point.
Yeah, but like I don't
makes a
know
lot of
that it would
sense.
even be a better game unless they had an updated console for it. So my prediction, since we're
Maybe
not doing
that's what the
predictions, but here's
title of
mine.
it is. Breath of the Wild 2, it's on the new console.
That's what the spoiler is.
Breath of the Wild 2,
you go.
Switch Pro.
Oh man.
The better Switch.
I was
Wii
looking at the
Sports
release
game.
dates, and I was like, so the Wii came out in 2006. The Wii U came out in 2011, 2012, so around there. So, or wait, is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Something like that. So and then the Switch came out in 2017.
Mhm.
So this year, next year, or 2024 is going to be a new console if we're following that pattern.
Right.
Speaking
no
of buying things, I believe our next topic is the eShop closing. For
Yes,
the,
it is.
And I think Pixel has things to say about that.
Oh, I have many things to say about it. This is such. So we all know that the regular Wii eShop closed a while ago. I'm pretty sure it closed around 5 or 6 years after the last Wii was made in production. That's fine. That makes sense. And this eShop closed, you know, around the same time. It was going to close around the same time after the Wii U stopped production. And I don't have a problem with that. The problem that I have is with the DS eShop closing. Because the last 3DS that was produced was back in 2019. So by this model, that eShop shouldn't close until 2024. Which makes that would follow the model, and that makes it's a logical marketing decision for Nintendo, because I know to this day, 7 years after I've gotten my Wii U, I still buy games off the eShop. There are going to be people out there that just bought a 3DS XL or Nintendo DS XL in 2019, and then just 3 years later, they can't buy any more games off the eShop, which is really a poor marketing decision for Nintendo, because they'll lose a lot of their. The nice thing about the eShop is the convenience. You don't have to go out and buy a game from the shop. You can just buy it online and then have it downloaded straight to your console. I'm predicting they're gonna lose a fair amount of money because they lose that convenience, and people are lazy nowadays. They don't want to go to the store and buy a game and then come back. They want to do it right from the comfort of their home. Like, who wants to drive 5 minutes to your local GameStop when you can just do it in 2 seconds? So
Yeah, that's true.
doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But before the eShops close, by the way, they will stop accepting credit card payments in late March. Here are all the Zelda games you can get. On the 3DS console, you can get 3DS and Wii U, I should add. You can get the original Legend of Zelda, Zelda 2, which I don't know why you'd ever get that unless you're a masochist, and Link to the Past. 3DS, you can get Ocarina of Time 3D and Majora's Mask 3D, A Link Between Worlds, Triforce Heroes, and Hyrule Warriors Legends. On the Wii U, you can still buy the Wind Waker HD, the original Hyrule Warriors, Twilight Princess HD, Breath of the Wild, the Zelda Game & Watch game, the original Ocarina of Time, the original Majora's Mask, the Minish Cap, Phantom Hourglass, Spirit Tracks, and Skyward Sword. You can basically get all the 3D Zeldas up until Breath of the Wild, which is pretty awesome that you can do that, because on the Switch you can only get, I mean, you're missing out on a lot of the mainline 3D Zeldas, but on the Wii U you can basically get 90% of them.
Yeah, that is a lot of them right there.
Between the two, you can get all the Zelda games up until Breath of the Wild.
Or you can get pretty darn close.
Yeah, it's pretty close
Yeah.
for sure. I don't even know everything that's out there. What kind of Zelda fan am I? I don't even know all the games.
Yeah.
I
I
think
think
as
I'm
long as
missing
you're
Four
having
Swords
fun,
and Four
think-
Swords Adventures, but that's about it.
Are those all the ones that are on your list of 14 games you mentioned earlier?
Yeah. Well, including the Switch games. I have all the Zelda Switch games except for, Cadence of Hyrule and Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition. All the
makes me
ones on the
wonder
Wii
how
U
many-
plus the Switch.
Yeah.
I
It
do
makes
have
me
to
wonder
say
how
that-
many of the new Zelda fans are actually going out and buying some of these older games that they've never heard of before.
Yeah. I know for me, I'm excited to play, quote unquote, the best game ever made, which is Ocarina of Time.
I was gonna say you're gonna have to be a little more specific.
Yeah. Most Zelda fans still hold that as the best. It's really between Breath of the Wild and Ocarina of Time. But I know for me at
Yeah.
least, I don't really consider Breath of the Wild a Zelda game. It's more of an open world adventure set in the Zelda universe.
It's definitely like a new era, and
Yeah,
I'm
it's
curious
something
to
totally new.
I'm
Yeah.
definitely curious to see if it's going to end with Breath of the Wild 2 or if they're going to continue to use this kind of open world concept for like games that are no longer a part of Breath of the Wild, just separate Zelda games. Or maybe a mix of the old and new. I don't know.
I'm thinking more of a Wind Waker or Twilight Princess-esque game.
Yeah.
So it's like semi-open world, but
Yeah.
there's much less to discover, much less intricacy to the development of the world.
Probably. They're very I feel like they have to keep the puzzle aspect, and although they had 1 billion like mini puzzles in Breath of the Wild,
900 to
Like-
be specific.
yeah. I feel like they're going to make that a more prominent thing in future games, but I don't know.
Yeah.
A topic for another time, probably again.
Yeah.
Was that everything on the eShop? I feel I can't remember.
I mean, yeah, that's everything on the eShop. I think
Yeah, I
the
think
ones
you
the ones
covered
really
all of
worth
that.
getting are, I would say, like any of the ones that you can't get on the Switch Virtual Console, which would mean Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons, Minish Cap, Link Between Worlds, Triforce Heroes, Phantom Hourglass, and Spirit Tracks, because those are really the big ones. Because you can't get those on the Switch.
But
Mhm.
Pixel,
And it's hard to find
imagine
copies
if
as well.
somebody has like a limited budget and they only can buy one Zelda game, like what would be the one Zelda game you suggest to buy from the eShop before it closed? Just one. Pixel?
So, I would say, if you have no Zelda games at all on any platform, I would say buy Breath of the Wild. Everyone knows it, everyone loves it. It's a great game. If you're looking for a more challenging, more Zelda-like experience, and you have a Wii U, I would say Twilight Princess HD. If you have a DS, I would say Ocarina of Time 3D. Classic. If you want that more retro 2D feel, I would say, for both platforms, Minish Cap. It's a very well-crafted, story-driven, but not so limiting as other games. Its boss structure is really good, the way it handles progression is really fine-tuned, and I would say it's the best of the 2D Zeldas.
Amazing. Thank you for your expert opinion. So, Joey, what game would you buy?
Just from like I'm gonna go a different route because Pixel kind of covered like if you're new to it or whatever. I'm gonna say if you've played like a vast majority of the games and you're looking for like a random one that's not as popular, I would go with Phantom Hourglass. I can't remember everything about it because it's been forever since I played it, but I will say it's one of those ones that I found oddly really entertaining, the whole aspect of it and trying to create your map and just the characters in it. It's a fun time and it's not super well known, let alone super popular. So if you're looking for like something a little different, I would go with that. Phantom Hourglass.
Wow, that's a great opinion, actually.
Well, I mean, considering I'm new, I would have to go with Pixel's recommendations. I think for me, I like freedom and I like story. I would definitely recommend Breath of the Wild to start. I think as far as like the tutorial part of the game, because that's really big for me, I need to know how to play if I'm going to enjoy it. I think the plateau scenario when you first start out in the game is excellent to learn how to fight enemies and just the basic mechanics of the game. I'm such a sucker for a good story, obviously. So I think I like the whole memories aspect of, you wake up and you absolutely don't remember anything, which is perfect because as a player, you've never played the game before. So it makes sense because you're discovering about the story just right along with Link, and it just matches up in a line. So I really like the setup of Breath of the Wild.
Ooh, cool. For my game, I should try Princess, but actually, I think I'm going to say you should probably get A Link Between Worlds. I think it's an incredible, really incredible Zelda game. 2D Zelda games are generally games that I think most Zelda players usually go for the 3D ones. So I think having a 2D game is something you should have. In my opinion, A Link Between Worlds is truly the best 2D Zelda game, and you should have it for the 3DS, portable, really nice. Awesome.
Yeah, that's true. It's another one of those ones that isn't as popular. It's probably getting more popular now, but
it should be popular, but it isn't, and that's so sad.
I'm so bummed that you can't get it on the Wii U, because that's one of the games that I really wanted to play. I've seen a lot of really great things about it, and it's the 2D step into HD, and it's, God, I really want to play it so bad. But I can't, so...
One day.
One day. If you buy a 3DS. or they release it on Switch Online.
Maybe when they come out with the new console.
Going to be the new virtual console, for Nintendo.
I'm honestly concerned that if they come out with the sequel to the Switch, it's going to be similar to the Wii U situation. Because the Wii U was a sequel to the Wii. And I hope they've learned their lesson from the Wii U and do things differently with the Switch 2 or Switch Pro. Because there's a lot of potential for that thing. If they put in a great graphics chip, it could rival PS5.
And it's portable.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would love that.
The king of the
PS5 graphics on the go. Like, my God.
Yeah, I think the portability of the Switch is really what sealed the deal for us.
Yeah. For me, it was the games, actually.
Me bought.
Yeah, we didn't even
Switch for Splatoon 2 only.
We got the Switch for the kids. I'm saying this in finger quotations.
Yeah.
For the kids.
That's your excuse for everything.
Yeah, Ted told me the other night, he's like, we're probably going to have to buy another Switch.
I mean, you could just buy a Switch. Or if you're going to buy another Switch, just go big or go home, get the OLED.
There you go.
Wait for the Pro.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We might hold out. We might hold out for a new one.
It's gonna be hard to wait.
For me,
okay. I'm in charge.
I have
just
the
you gotta wait. Mommy's playing the Switch.
Get out of
my
here,
kids
kid.
will have a hard time waiting, not me.
For me, I have the quote-unquote Gen 2 of the Switch with the better battery life. And then I went into Target the other day, and I saw the Switch and the OLED next to each other, and my God, the difference was insane. It was just the picture was so crisp, so clear on the OLED versus the normal Switch. It made the Switch look last gen.
Wow.
That's
I
impressive.
didn't know it was that different.
Yeah, if you see
That
it.
was your Switch Olay advertisement for the podcast. Please sponsor us, Nintendo. And that was our first episode, guys. It was our pilot. Thank you so much, everyone, for being on with me. Thank you to Flute for having such an amazing interview with us. Thanks for Joey, and thank you Pixel, and of course Tina. This was the Zelda Creators Modcast, and we see you next episode.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Catch you later.